This is Paul Schneiderman on the 124th edition of the Sports Untold podcast, also on Rainier Avenue Radio. My special guest today is University of Washington football legend Mario Bailey. Mr. Bailey is currently one of the panelists on Sports Radio 93.3 KJR in Seattle, the Husky Honks show with Greg Lewis and Dave Softy Mario. I'm sorry, Dave Softy Mahler. That was a little Freudian slip there. Mario, I'll get back to you in a minute. My podcast is now on Spotify, YouTube, Google, iTunes, Podbean. You can go to sportsuntoldpodcast.com. I encourage my listeners to click the like button regarding my show, comment, and go to sportsuntoldpodcast.com and check out my show on the show website and other outlets such as YouTube. Mario, I'm going to get back to you in a minute. I promised I would. Mario Bailey is a member of the famous University of Washington 1991 National Championship team. Mr. Bailey holds the Husky record, I believe, for most touchdowns in the season, which is 18. I believe he has the most career Washington touchdowns at 30. Mario also shares the record with several other Huskies, the most touchdowns in a single game. He was team captain of that famous National Championship team, a first-team All-American. Mario played football at Franklin High School in Seattle. Mario played for a few NFL teams as a practice squad player. Mario had a very good career for the Frankfurt Galaxy in NFL Europe from 95 to 2000. Mario also played in the XFL in the Arena League. And as I mentioned, Mario is now a Husky Honks commentator with Softy Mahler and Greg Lewis on 93.3 KJR. Mario, I appreciate coming on the Sports Untold podcast, also on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Appreciate you having me. Good to be here.
Likewise. Sorry about that little delay. We're all good to go now.
No problem whatsoever.
Yeah. Coach James wouldn't like that punctuality problem, would he? He wouldn't like that.
No. Coach wouldn't like that at all, actually.
Right. Okay. Well, we're all good. Well, Mario, I want to, I followed your career, and did you actually go to Washington State University Cougar Cage basketball camp at one time?
I did 2 years in a row, actually.
Okay, I think I remember you there. So we've met a couple times over the years, and we know a lot of mutual people. Why don't you just kind of share with us how you got the football bug? Because football has played such a huge role in your life. Just kind of tell us how you got the bug as a youngster.
Well, I never really liked football. My older brother thought I should play. He was playing, and he told me to come out because every time we would play out in the yard or out in the field or just playing out in the street with the guys, I did well, and he thought I could do it. So I finally did it. I think I was 12 years old, maybe 6th or 7th grade. Played for CAYA football, and I was receiver my first year. Did pretty good. Went to Rainier Beach. I played running back the rest of my career until I got to high school. But football was never my sport. Basketball was always my sport. Football was just an afterthought, but I was pretty good at it, so I played.
Did you always like basketball more than football, despite excelling in football?
Even now, I feel like I made the wrong decision. I went to college for football, but I had a scholarship offer for basketball. Sometimes I wish I had taken the basketball scholarship because I enjoy basketball. I just played football.
Where did you get your basketball scholarship offer from, Mario? What college?
I could have went to Washington. I
didn't know that. You're a really good high school player. I remember watching you play in those Roosevelt Franklin games back in the day. So
yeah.
But I maybe I forgot that you once got a football scholarship offer too. Mario, what was your favorite memory in those Husky football years?
My favorite memory is just the guys. I still have a great friendship. We have a text string of about 9 or 10 of us. Just being around them, learning from them, getting a close bond with them that lasts forever. That's just my favorite moment of just being around the guys, that you have a lifelong friendship, brothership, whatever you want to call it. Just being with them and growing. Now we were 17, 18 years old. Now I won't even say how old I am, but, we're old now and we're still friends, and guys have grandkids and families. Just creating that bond was the best experience for me.
Well, you're almost exactly my age, so we're agree. We're not that young anymore. We're not senior citizens yet, though, either. So it's
not yet.
It's a little relative, Mario, right? So
I do see AARP in my mailbox, though, so it's getting there.
I got that when my 50th birthday hit too. What was your favorite team memory Was it the national championship win in your years playing for Washington?
I mean, yeah, of course, it's the national championship win, beating Michigan, but probably the Michigan game, the USC game at home my junior year kind of put us on the map. We beat them 31-0. USC had been the champs probably for my first year, maybe even the year before that, but they were the king of the mountain, and we knocked them off. We beat them 31-0. It was probably 92 degrees, a rocking Husky Stadium, and that was kind of our entrance into the national light.
Yeah, no, that was did Marinovich say all they saw was purple that day?
All we saw was purple. Yeah,
that was a great. Well, I've asked this question before, and I have a feeling what your answer is going to be. Do you have any doubt that Washington would beat Miami in the national championship game that year?
No doubt whatsoever. You know, it's just a matter of how bad we would have beat them. I mean, it's similar to Michigan. You know, nobody thought we would handle them the way we handled them. We could have made the score worse. Our backups, the rest of the team was in the fourth quarter. Guys didn't really even play in the fourth quarter. The game was over. So we would have beat Miami handily.
Now, I remember your Heisman Trophy pose in that game.
Yeah. I didn't know it was gonna stick with me for this long, but it's what I'm remembered for the most. So
we're still being talked about, Mario. So
yeah.
Hey, Mario, I've had a lot of people on my show who played under Don James or worked with Don James. I've had your friend Greg Lewis on, Ed Cunningham, Mark Patterson. I've had a lot of Huskies on my show, Jimmy Rogers, the list goes on. And one thing that we kidded about earlier is Don James really taught the players the necessity of punctuality. What's the most important thing that you learned from the late coach Don James?
Really, that's it. I tell anybody that'll listen, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, it's even worse. But besides that, I learned that you treat everybody as important as Coach James would treat me just the way he would treat the janitor. So, there was no level of importance. Everybody was important and everybody deserved respect. And I love that. Like, he knew everybody's name. He knew everybody's wife's name. He tried to learn everybody's kid's name. He was good about that. So that's the other lesson I learned. But punctuality comes with me every day. If I'm feeling like I'm 2 minutes late for work, he's the first thing that comes to my mind. So,
Mario, I had Joe Steele on my show a couple weeks ago, your colleague, the famous Husky running back, and Joe said something very similar that you just said. He said Don James said you treat everybody well. The person serving food in the mess hall, you show that person respect too. So you said something very similar that Joe Steele said.
Yes, that's it.
So Mario, you joined the Husky Honks. There were two friends of mine, Greg Lewis and Greg Softimar. Greg's actually been on my show more than any other person. So Greg's been a big supporter of my podcast. He's a friend. And in the Husky Honks show, I kind of think of it as a TV show where the cast has changed a little bit, but it's still a really good TV show. It's still going on with some good actors in the cast. Why don't you tell us about what you really want to bring long term to the Husky Honk show, and tell us about working with Greg Lewis and Dave Softy-Miller.
Well, first, Greg and Softy are good friends of mine, and I don't use the word friend lightly. I love both of them. They're always there if I ask for something, or vice versa. So they're good people. They're funny. On the show, they're ruthless. Like, I was nervous my first show, but I'm never nervous if Softy would have called me to do a one-off. But being a Husky Honk just made me a little nervous, and they just got mad at me like, hey, it's just like us three talking football. So now I feel a lot more comfortable, and they do a good job of making me feel comfortable. I just hope to bring great insight to somebody that actually played there and could put you in the mind of a player of what he's going through or what he's thinking, and give you an insight on game knowledge of game plans and schemes and different things that a football player that actually played there could give you.
Well, I have a little secret for you, Mario. When I had Greg Lewis on about a week ago, he said he's very happy to have you join the show. So Greg did say that on my show. So I'll reveal the secret.
Oh, well, like I said, I love G. G is one of the rare people that if I ever need something, I know if I call him and he can do it, he'll do it. That's not, everybody's not like that. He always comes through.
Greg's a very nice fellow. When I was getting this podcast started several years ago, I took Greg to dinner and he gave me some tips. He's a loyal, good guy.
Yeah.
And working with it's sort of an interesting combination, you three guys, because Softy and Greg are both really good guys, but definitely have different styles they bring to the table. Do you kind of see yourself a little in between Softy and Greg in some ways for styles?
I'm most definitely in between. They are totally different, but I'm caught in the middle somehow. Softy, just how he can speak and have the knowledge, but I'm amazed that when I see him speak or when he does a commercial, like he's flawless. He just goes with it. So I guess that's being on the radio for 30 years. It's nothing to him. So I'm just watching him and gaining my own knowledge.
He's a very talented sports radio host. Very quick on his feet. He was on my show a couple of years ago. I had a lot of fun with Softy. And Softy's never boring, is he, Mario?
Never boring. And you were about to say it, like quick on his feet. And that's what I'm learning. Like, the show is not scripted, so I don't know what Softy's gonna ask me. So I'm just like, what's next? So you just got to be prepared.
Greg can be intellectual, but he's never boring either. Greg's very cerebral, really thinks things through, but Greg's never boring either.
Greg's been doing it for a while, so I can tell, like, Greg, it's nothing Softy throws at him, he's ready.
Yeah, you guys, people are enjoying you guys, the three of you together right now. It's a good combination. So, Mario, I know you're doing some work. A lot of listeners may not know this. You're currently the Seahawks Director of Legends and Player Development. Tell us about your duties in that position for the Seahawks, Mario.
My title is Director of Legends and Player Engagement. The word legends just means former players. So for me, I had to do appearances with the former players. I help them with their camps, their foundations, and different things. I bring them out here for different events, just keep them locked in with what's going on in the organization. For the players, it could be a variety of things. It could be helping them with their foundations, getting them out in the communities, maybe helping them find a house, maybe helping them find a restaurant, but just being somebody that can help them with the resources and just be a mentor. My career wasn't is great because I wasn't working hard. So I can tell a player that's not working hard, like the pitfalls and the traps that are out there. So just being around the guys, being around football, the Seahawks is a great organization, and I'm blessed to be a part of it.
What a neat position. By the way, Mario, if I look at my phone, it's to see if I get any comments on Facebook or any questions on Facebook. So I don't really think I'm being rude if I'm looking.
No, I don't. I'm just, my battery's low. I'm hoping I don't run out on you.
Oh, okay. Hopefully not. So you deal with the players on a daily basis?
Every day.
Good. That's what a neat position. Have you become friends with a lot of the current players too?
I don't know if we're friends, but we're close because you're together every day for 6-7 months. So.
Mario, what's your take on the reaction Russell Wilson got when he came back to Seattle? So, and you played pro football, you played prominent college player. Some argue that fans shouldn't have booed Russell because of all the stuff he did for the Seahawks, the Super Bowl win. Other fans say, oh, he deserved to get booed. He left the team kind of under some controversy. How do you stand on that, Mario? Should Russell be booed or not, or should he be booed?
My own personal opinion, it's everybody has their own mind. You do what you want. If you don't feel he needs to be booed, he doesn't. If you do, you're a fan, you can boo. So I don't care either way. Russ is a great man, a great person. This is just sports. So, if you want to boo, as long as you don't see him in person and say anything derogatory or be disrespectful, I'm okay with what fans do.
You see it as a fan freedom of choice issue, whether to boo Russell or not.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Mario, I hopefully your battery won't run out, but because I got some fun stuff I want to talk to you about further. Now, these are two questions I've asked about every guest since late 2019. The two questions are: who's a living sports figure you'd love to chat with or spend some time with? And who's a deceased sports figure in history you would have loved to have interviewed or had a conversation with?
Magic Johnson, my favorite athlete growing up. Still would love to talk to Magic. A deceased sports figure, my other favorite is Muhammad Ali. Just what he went through, what he stood for, everything he did. I'd love to have a conversation with him more than anything.
Mario, to that question, I've asked that question all sorts of guests, and a lot of people have answered Muhammad Ali. Quite a few.
Yeah.
He's probably the number one deceased sports figure that people have said who they would have liked to have interviewed or had a conversation with. And you know what? You're the first person to mention Magic.
Well, I grew up, Magic Johnson destroyed the Sonics after they had just won the championship, and he made me a fan. He won the championship right after the Sonics did as a rookie, and I've been a fan ever since.
I've had people answer Michael Jordan and all sorts of LeBron James. Nobody answered Magic yet. So I get some great, you are a contributor to that, to answers that question. So.
I've met Mike and had a few conversations with him. So it might've been Mike, but it's Magic.
It's Magic. Yeah, definitely interesting. Very interesting, extremely successful American sports figures. Who is your favorite University of Washington athlete in history?
That's a great question. I'd have to give it to Mooney, Warren, just because he's the first player that I've seen actually do it, and what he went through. Now Black quarterbacks in the NFL is nothing, but he was one of the first. He had to go to Canada and win 5 or 6 Grey Cups in a row before they would even let him in the NFL. So to go through that, and I actually got to play with him, so I know what he went through. He's probably my favorite.
Up on my list too. I'll tell you a quick story, Mario. My late grandfather, Harry Schneiderman, died back in 1990. He was a Husky letterman. My grandpa lettered in 1928. And my grandfather met Warren Moon and Mark Stewart at the Pro Bowl back in the early 80s. And my grandpa's an older guy walking up to Warren Moon to say hello. He and Mark Stewart invited my grandfather up to their hotel room to say hello and spend some time with them. That's just an incredible story. Here they are, prominent athletes, an older guy just introduces himself as a Husky alum, and that I like to tell Warren Moon that story someday.
Yeah, but Mooney's a good guy.
That's a great name. And what is your favorite sports movie?
It's another good question. I mean, is boxing a sport?
Yeah, of course it's a sport. Yeah.
Oh, then we'll go with Rocky. I was gonna say Mushy loving basketball, but Rocky was first. I like Rocky.
You like the original Rocky?
1 and 2.
1 and 2. And by the way, Carl Weathers is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah. Well, I like 3 too. I like the Mr. T, Clubber Lang too. So 1, 2, and 3.
And Weathers is a former NFL player too.
Yeah. I know Carl would play for the Rams.
Yeah, you know him. You know Carl Weathers.
No, I just know. I know his history. Yeah.
Right. Those are great movies. Rocky's come up. There's a lot of really good ones. And Brian's Song has come up. James Caan just passed a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Sonny from The Godfather.
Right. He had a great career. But a couple of our guests have mentioned Rocky. Well, Greg, you know the Husky program, not Greg, Mario. Another slip there. I just had Greg on, so I think he stole my mind a little bit. So you know the program real well, Mario. Grew up in Seattle, played for the University of Washington. You're now a Husky commentator. Tell us what you think of this new coach.
Love him. I love his energy. I love his attitude. I like the energy that he's brought to the team. I like his offensive knowledge. I like his attention to detail. And I'm all for, if you won at every level, there's no difference at this level. If you're a winner, you're a winner. So I look forward to the Huskies being winners again.
You think this DeBoer is the long-term guy?
I think Coach DeBoer will be there at least 8 to 10 years.
Greg said something similar when I asked him about the same question. Do you feel bad for what happened to Jimmy Lake?
I do feel bad for what happened to Coach. I don't feel that was fair. I felt like once that Montana loss came, it was inevitable. They were going to figure out a way. I don't really feel like he hit the kid, but I felt like it was just a rain pour. I think every coach deserves more than a year and a half to kind of figure out things. But, it goes back to what Coach James about treating everybody. I don't know if Coach Lake had a bad attitude towards people, but if you're not treating everybody great, and you're not winning, they'll figure out a way. But I feel like he just deserved a longer chance. But everybody didn't feel that way. we've moved on. I wish him luck. I know he's still getting a paycheck, and I know he'll be a great coach in the future like he was when he was here as a defensive coordinator.
That in that 2020 season, Mario, was such a condensed year.
That doesn't even count. Like, who gets to start with COVID? Like, that's not it.
That was like a 3-2 5-game season.
And, hey, we were the champs. So I mean, what can you say? His first year, we were the champs.
That is technically true, isn't it, Mario?
Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting little factoid, Mr. Bailey. That's story broke the other week. There's a possibility that UW could be joining Oregon, Notre Dame, and Stanford and Cal in a newly configured Big Ten. What's your take on all this crazy conference stuff going on?
Unfortunate for what's happening to the Pac. I think if we need to get out, we need to get out now, and we need to get out and probably go somewhere with Oregon and Notre Dame. That would be great. But we're going to have to be competitive and get some stuff together. I don't want to stay in the Pac if it's still constructed like this, unless we add some teams. If we're not going to add anybody and it's just like this, I think it's cause for trouble. So if we can go with Oregon and Stanford and Notre Dame, I'm all for it. I just want to be in a competitive conference and do well.
Would you feel bad, Mario, if the Pac-12 imploded?
Of course. I mean, I played in the Pac, so it would just be like, you know, it's already bad. It's called the Pac-12. I played in the Pac-10. You know, now it'll be like, what league did you play in? I've never even heard of the Pac. It's gone.
And you wouldn't want Washington in a Pac-12 conference that didn't include some major universities?
No, not at all. I'm not for the conference that has no major university, because what happens is you end up like Cincinnati. You're not going to get a championship bid or trying to get a playoff bid. They're going to consider you not in the major conferences, and you're going to have to almost be undefeated to get into the playoffs. I don't want that.
You know, Mario, there's been some talk around the country to some extent that Washington's non-conference schedule is not tough enough this year, with the first two games against Kent State and Portland State. We do play Michigan State, who I believe is ranked about 15 in the country, on Saturday. What's your take on the criticism that Washington's non-conference schedule is too cupcake this year?
I mean, I don't care. UCLA's playing Alabama State. Texas A&M lost to Appalachian State, or did they lose to Appalachian State? Notre Dame's losing to teams. I don't care. These teams can beat you. And people could say last year, Montana, that wasn't a great team to play. They beat us. So you take every game that's in front of you, you play the game, do your best, see what happens. Don't worry about that. We got 2 victories. 2 victories is 2 victories.
You don't take it as 2 non-illegitimate victories. You don't buy it.
I take it as 2 wins.
Gotcha.